The haunting truth about the cursed boots from the dark web. You won't believe what happens at 3 a.m. In the shadowy corners of the internet. An urban legend was brewing, one that sent chills down the spines of those who dared to listen. The tale of the cursed boots from the dark web. These weren't your average kicks. No, these boots were said to possess a life of their own, whispering secrets of the damned into the ears of anyone foolish enough to wear them. According to eerie forums and dimly lit chats, anyone who slipped these monstrosities on could feel an unnatural warmth spreading through their legs, like the hot breath of something sinister lurking just beneath the surface. They supposedly came from a seller known only as the Collector, a figure wrapped in mystery and shadows, whose true identity remained hidden behind a veil of smoke and mirrors. Stories circulated like wildfire. There was the tale of a young man named Tommy, who bought the boots only to find himself waking at 3 a.m. each night, compelled to walk. He swore he could hear faint voices urging him forward, leading him into the woods behind his house. Tommy's friends laughed it off until they saw the look on his face, the wild eyes, the panic churning in his gut as he described the icy fingers gripping his heart. When they finally convinced him to burn the boots, thick black smoke spiraled into the sky, and an unearthly wail split the night. Was it his imagination or something far worse? As the clock ticked closer to that witching hour, a knot tightened in the stomach of anyone who knew the story. The boots were said to be inescapably cursed, a reckless dare for those seeking thrills, until they beckoned with a sinister trust. And so, it grew, a deadly game of fate versus free will, of temptation and dread. But what truly happened at 3 a.m.? With each whispered account, the whispers grew bolder, drawing the curious deeper into the darkness, clawing at the edges of their sanity. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Something about the cursed boots had an insatiable draw, ever-chilling and tantalizing. The night they found Tommy unconscious, his body limp amidst a ring of scorched grass, was the night the stakes turned deadly. As his friends huddled in fear, they spoke in hushed tones. Had they unleashed something beyond their control? Was there more to the legend than they ever hoped to know? With their hearts racing, they whispered the very echoes that haunted them most. Who would be next? And when the witching hour struck again, would they be brave enough to confront the truth? The air thickened with dread as midnight loomed, the atmosphere almost humming with a sinister energy. On the anniversary of Tommy's collapse, his friends gathered in a cramped basement, seeking solace in each other's presence, their eyes tense with fear and anticipatory dread. As each of them exchanged nervous glances, their thoughts drifted back to that dreadful night, the eerie wail, the smoke that smelled of charred dread, and Tommy's haunted gaze as he struggled to explain the horrors he had encountered. Jake, the most skeptical of the group, finally broke the silence. What if it wasn't just the boots? What if it was something else, something deeper? His words hung like a heavy fog. The others shifted uncomfortably, their minds racing. Could it really be true? Had they awakened a force they could not understand? Liz, feeling the weight of their collective anxiety, chimed in, "We have to do something. We can't let it fester like a wound that won't heal." Her voice trembled, underlining the fear she was trying to mask. Like what? Go out into the woods? That's where this all started. Mark's voice was rising, disbelief scorching his words. They all knew well how Tommy had succumbed to the boots call. I don't know, but we owe it to Tommy. We can't just sit here and do nothing. Liz's determination echoed darkly in the room. It wasn't just fear gripping Nanelle. It was guilt, a gnawing realization that they had pushed Tommy too far, had laughed too loudly at his horror. One by one, the friends reluctantly agreed. Each felt an insidious pull, as if the boots themselves were beckoning them to confront the chaos they had triggered. Armed with flashlights and trembling resolve, they decided to venture into the woods where Tommy had last been found. As they stepped into the moonlit haven of the sinister trees, the silence felt almost oppressive. Each crack of a twig snapped sharp in the darkness. Every rustle of leaves whispered forgotten secrets. It was as if the forest had a heartbeat, synchronized with their mounting anxiety. "Are you sure about this?" Jake's voice was just above a whisper, fear threading through every syllable. A sudden chill swept over them, leaving goosebumps prickling their skin. The air felt charged, heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth and something else, something foul that twisted in their stomachs. There, just there, in that clearing. Mark pointed toward a dimly lit area, shadows dancing frantically as the moonlight spilled through the trees. The friends hesitated, but it was too late to turn back now. Trepidation surged as they approached the spot. Could it be the very same clearing where Tommy had collapsed? Squinting through the shadows, Liz froze. "Look!" she gasped, her flashlight beam landing on something nestled between the roots of a gnarled tree. There it lay. A single boot, twisted and charred, pulsating gently as if alive. The moment they laid eyes on it, the whispers escalated into coherent murmurs, insisting, urging, seducing them with promises too great to ignore. "What if it calls to one of us?" Jake said, the tremor in his voice now unmistakable. Heart pounding, they watched as the boot twitched slightly, almost beckoning. Fear gripped their hearts. Were they brave enough? Would they dare? Which hauntings lay buried in the darkness of past choices? As the clock ticked closer to 3 a.m., they stood at the precipice of their fate, paralyzed by both curiosity and dread. What truth would they uncover? And when it revealed itself, could they live to tell the tale? But just as they began to step closer, the ground beneath them rumbled, and a distant howl echoed through the trees, a primal wail that sent shivers racing down their spines. The woods themselves seemed to gasp, and the boots' whispers intensified, growing ever louder as they lulled them into the depths of shadow. What would they discover in the next moment? Would they survive the devilish pull of the cursed boots, or had they walked straight into the jaws of their own doom? The forest seemed to swallow their breaths, each inhalation tightening the knot in their chests. The rumbling grew, a sinister growl that echoed against trees like ancient sentinels. Liz felt a needle of panic prickling down her spine as she glanced at her friends. "Maybe we should go. Maybe this is a mistake," she whispered, urgency threading her words. Mark's jaw was set. "We can't back out now. We need to understand what we're dealing with." But his voice wavered, betraying his own fear. Jake stepped forward, drawn to the boot like a moth to a flame. The whispers surged, an intoxicating melody that tugged at something deep inside him. He could feel the weight of the world. They could all feel it. What was it that the whispers promised? Acceptance? Power? Or destruction? "Jake, don't." Liz's voice shot through the tension, her eyes wide with terror, but it was too late. The moment Jake knelt down, the boot erupted in a flash of light, blinding them. They stumbled back, shielding their eyes, as the world shimmered and warped around them. A rush washed over them, sending shivers through their bones, filling their minds with strange visions, ghostly apparitions flickering in and out of sight, faces twisted in agony, their silent screams penetrating the night. Time folded within itself as they glimpsed fleeting moments, a clash of shadows, the darkened funhouse of memories now leaking into their present. "What the hell is happening?" Mark shouted, rising from where he had fallen. The light dimmed, leaving them unsteady. The whispers morphed into desperate cries for help, for release, for revenge. "Run!" yelled Liz, but the ground trembled again, shaking her to the core. Roots snaked upward like fingers, threatening to ensnare them. Without thinking, they broke into a frantic sprint, the darkness gnashing at their heels. They fled deeper into the woods, the echoes of the cursed boots still trailing them, unrelenting. Behind them, the forest howled, a symphony filled with tortured souls seeking their retribution. As they plunged into the depths of the darkness, Liz stumbled, and a cold hand brushed against her ankle. She yelped and fell to the ground, the forest floor biting into her palms. "Help!" Jake turned back, his heart pounding. He reached out to her, but something in the shadows blocked his way, a blackened silhouette, glistening with malice. "Don't let it get you!" he screamed. But the shadows had a life of their own. Feeling the cold breath of something ancient and malevolent behind her, Liz kicked with all her strength, the fear racing through her veins. Every flicker of light they once saw disappeared, leaving only darkness and despair. "Keep moving! Move!" Mark shouted, pulling Liz to her feet, urgency thrumming in his tone. They stumbled toward a thin plume of light flickering in the distance, a promise of safety. But as they raced forward, an otherworldly howl sliced through the air. It resonated in their bones, stealing their breath and their resolve. Suddenly, they skidded to a stop, the clearing opening before them. Within the illuminated space, a circle of altered shadows spun, merging madness with an echo of reality. In the center, the boot pulsated again. Was it a portal to salvation or a siren song luring them to their demise? The ground trembled harder. Would they risk it all to confront their guilt? To face the truth that had bound them together in this macabre dance? What awaited them in the heart of that terrible glow? With their hearts racing, they shared one last look, a wordless understanding that whatever lay ahead would change them forever. "Let us find out," Liz whispered, her voice a fragile anchor amidst the storm. As they stepped forward, the whispers crescendoed, drowning out their fears. But they couldn't shake the sense that something, or someone, was waiting for them on the other side, a truth hidden in darkness, one that could either redeem or destroy them all. What new horrors would they uncover as they stepped into that terrible light? The light pulsed, drawing them in, a beacon that flickered with both fear and an odd sense of allure. Liz's skin prickled, caught between dread and a whispering hope. Shadows danced around her, ominous yet intoxicating. With each cautious step, she felt the weight of her past pressing against her, memories swirling like a tempest, threatening to overwhelm her spirit. Mark, ever the skeptical one, hesitated. What if this is some kind of trap? His voice cracked, vulnerability slipping through his bravado. "It's not a trap. We need to know what this boot means," Jake urged, the strange energy pulling him toward it like an irresistible force. His feet moved almost of their own accord, stumbling closer while the shadows darted around him, merging with his thoughts. "What if it uncovers something we can't handle?" Mark pressed, his eyes wide with disbelief. But even he felt the draw. Their lives had been tangled in mystery long enough. "What choice do we have?" Liz broke in, rallying them as the shadows swirled angrily. "Standing here will only leave us trapped in this nightmare." Every heartbeat thundered in her ears as they pressed forward. The forest shifted. It felt alive, pulsating with raw energy. The whispers became clearer, echoing their deepest fears, their darkest secrets. Liz could almost hear her own shame. It wrapped around her like a noose, tightening with each step. Suddenly, the ground bucked beneath them, the darkness howling in rage. Liz stumbled again, but this time caught herself, the boots shimmering as they absorbed the shadows. Her heart raced, mixing fear and curiosity. What if this was their chance to confront the pain? They each carried the guilt that shrouded their friendship. Jake reached out, his fingers grazing the boot's soft surface. The moment he made contact, vision surged. Spectral figures flooded their minds, faces twisted in agony, screams of betrayal echoing around them. Each person bore an undeniable resemblance to the feelings that tied them all together. Stop! You're not supposed to touch it, Liz shouted, but it was too late. A shockwave erupted, the energy radiating from the boot like a black hole. The world spun, tossing them into a whirlwind of memories, each image sharper than the last. They relived their secrets, each instance of betrayal and heartbreak flashing between them, the rift that had grown like a canyon over the years. Their laughter, their fights, their moments of silence formed a jarring collage, painted with bitterness and regret. No, no, this can't be, Mark gasped, his hands clasping his head as if to ward off the penetrating screams of guilt that clawed at him. Then silence. The storm within them ceased, replaced by an eerie stillness. They found themselves standing on the edges of a void, hovering above a deeper darkness, a psychic abyss visible only through their shared trauma. "What did we do?" Liz whispered, gripped by a sense of impending doom. The weight of truth pressed down on them, suffocating. "We didn't just uncover our guilt. We awakened something." Jake's eyes widened, fear dawning. And then they heard it, the whisper surged back, now intertwined with piercing cries from their own hearts, a demonic laughter rimming the edges of their consciousness. With a thundering crash, the light flickered and faltered. The figures grew more distinct, faces turning toward them, mouths moving in soundless screams for justice. "Get back!" Mark yelled, backing away, but the shadows surged forth, transforming into grotesque shapes eager to consume them whole. Just as they thought escape was impossible, a blinding light erupted from the boot, illuminating the clearing. The shadows recoiled, distorted by the warmth. "This is our chance," Liz yelled, hope igniting in her chest. But just as they made to flee, the boot emitted one last, chilling whisper, a promise of vengeance that echoed like a heartbeat. Their legs moved, their minds racing, hearts pounding in sync, but as they reached the threshold of safety, a figure appeared in the light, raising an ethereal hand. "Before you run, you must understand what you've awakened, what truth remained hidden in the boot as depths, and what price must they pay to escape the horrors they had unleashed." The figure stepped closer, its edges shimmering like a mirage, a face partially hidden in the glow. It looked almost human, yet something was distinctly off. The eyes were empty voids, infinite and sorrowful. "What is happening?" Jake's voice trembled as realization clawed at him. He wasn't just staring at a ghost. He was looking into the abyss of their past choices, a reflection of everything they'd done wrong. "You think you can run from your shadows?" The figure hissed, its voice a scraping whisper. "You've awakened them, and now they seek justice for the pain you've caused." Mark swallowed hard, his bravado melting away. "Justice? We didn't mean for any of this to happen." The figure only laughed, a sound both haunting and mocking. It curled a finger, and the shadows shifted, twisting like snakes towards them, dark tendrils stretching and lunging. A monstrous scream erupted from the depths of the void, resonating with their shared guilt. "No!" Liz screamed, her heart racing. The shadows pulsed, echoing each pulse of regret that beat within her chest. "We can't let it take us." The light from the boot flickered nervously, as if caught between two worlds. Its warmth faded, revealing more of the figure, a woman in a tattered dress, her face agonized, but somehow wise, as if she carried the weight of 1,000 secrets. "You must confront your truths before escape is possible," she said, her tone shifting to something gentler, almost pained. "Each step you've taken has led to this moment, a confrontation with what you buried deep." Mark went pale, his eyes darting to Liz and Jake. "We have to face this together. If we don't, we're done for." The weight of expectancy hung heavy in the air, but Liz knew they could still run. They could turn their backs, flee into the depths of the forest, but would the shadows follow? An icy dread snaked down her spine. "No, we can't." "What do we do?" Jake's voice was shrinking, swallowed by the expanse of darkness that loomed behind them. "Each of us has something to reveal," the woman urged, her voice growing stronger. Take a breath, face your guilt, and whatever happens, do not look away. This moment could shatter you, not just the shadows. A wave of fear washed over Liz. Memories of her hurtful words, the betrayal of friendships, they surged forth, cloaked in shadows. We've been running from our truths. I don't want to run anymore, she confessed, her voice cracking but ringing with defiance. Mark stepped forward, resolving to let the story spill from him. Fine. I felt abandoned when my dad left. I was angry. I treated everyone like they were disposable after that. You guys were my friends, but I pushed you away. The shadows around him recoiled, twisting as if absorbing his confession. A surge of courage ignited within Liz. I lied to cover my own fear. I didn't trust you, Mark. I yelled and blamed you when I should have been better. The darkness buzzed angrily, as if resisting the light that floated around them in response to her truth. Don't hold back, Jake shouted, desperation knitting his brow. We can't let this crush us. With each revelation, the shadows dimmed, yet new forms emerged, more terrifying, clawing in hunger for the weaknesses they had exposed. He stepped forward, steeling himself. I walked away when I should have stayed. I've hurt both of you too. I can't keep quiet anymore. I was a coward. The air crackled as guilt transformed into silence, an unbroken bond thrummed between them, raw and electrifying. In that moment, the shadowy figures halted, swirling uncertainly, as if hesitant in the face of their shared truths. But the figure in the light raised its hand, and the air thickened with anticipation. Your past will forever haunt you, unless you learn to embrace them. Only then can you break the curse. As they stood together amidst the unraveling darkness, Liz realized the fight had only just begun. What price would they have to pay to truly free themselves from their past? And who would be willing to confront the ultimate truth, even if it meant facing the darkest parts of their souls? The moment stretched, thick with tension and uncertainty. The shadows flickered restlessly around them, an ever-present threat, as if they had become sentient, listening, waiting. Liz could feel her heart pounding in her chest, each thud echoing like a war drum, urging her to act. A faint flicker of light emanated from the figure, intertwining with the encroaching darkness. The woman's eyes glowed with an unsettling mixture of sorrow and resolve. You mustn't stop now. Tell me what you've truly buried, she demanded, her voice growing louder, more insistent. Against the backdrop of swirling shadows, Jake broke the silence, his voice chopping through the tension. There's more. There must be something else. Frantic, he searched their faces, hoping to spark another confession, another release. Mark felt a knot tightening in his throat. For too long he had kept things buried so deep that even he forgot they existed. I didn't forgive myself for leaving her, he murmured, glancing down at the ground, a flaw in his otherwise brave front revealed. She needed me, and I walked away. The shadows responded instantly, lashing out at him, hissing with rage. They wrapped around his ankles, pulling at him, reminding him of the choices he had made. But he wouldn't back down. But I want to keep hiding, he shouted, the determination in his voice a shield against their wrath. Liz turned to him, a new resolve igniting within her. Let it out! We can take it, she urged, her eyes glistening. Next to them, Jake paced nervously, the energy shifting, building like storm clouds. You all think I'm so strong, he admitted suddenly, pulling in a shaky breath. But I'm terrified. I was left trembling in shadows, pretending like everything was fine. The shadows hesitated, their movements slowing. For a split second, it seemed as though they were reflective of their emotional honesty. But the figure didn't give them time to catch their breath. Fear is love turned inside out, she declared. Embrace it, it's part of you now. As if the veil over truth had been momentarily lifted, Liz felt a surge of nauseating fear and raw honesty. I did things I can never take back. I chose ambition over my friends. When they needed me, I was so caught up in my own life," she admitted, her voice cracking as she faced the consequences of her actions. For a moment, silence enveloped them, while the shadows bristled. They twisted violently, changing into jagged shapes that slithered around them like angry vipers. Each of her words seemed to cut them deep, forcing the shadows to reveal hidden reflections of their own failures and betrayals. "Why are we admitting these things?" Mark shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "What is the end game here?" The woman's figure shimmered more brightly, almost blinding him momentarily. "The end game is liberation," she replied, her tone softer now, as if she understood their dread. Her words hung in the air, glowing as if inviting them closer, but then, without warning, the darkness unleashed itself. Shadows lunged at them, screeching as new forms emerged, more horrific than before, taking on the essence of their regrets. They swirled around, each wretched face mimicking their past selves, mouthing unheard pleas and accusations. "No!" Liz shouted, stepping forward defiantly, her resolve burning away her fear. "You're just the ghosts of my mistakes." And as she spoke, a sudden flare ignited within her, pure and bright. It surged against the shadows, illuminating the painful memories and escaping her lips like a spell. Murmurs rippled from the gathering darkness, confusion evident in their movement. But as powerful energies clashed, it felt clear: light versus dark, hope versus despair. The woman's voice rose above the chaos. "Now! Together! Form your bond, give them your truths, and shatter the curse." Liz grabbed Jake's hand. Mark linked with them unwillingly. Together, they shouted their confessions into the abyss, pouring every ounce of regret and shame they had into the space around them. But just as they felt a flicker of hope, the shadows grew thicker, swirling into an ominous vortex pulling them in. The showdown was over. The shadows were relentless, waiting to devour what they had begun. What would happen if they failed to break the curse? Would the shadows take them, dragging them into the deepest corners of regret forever? The answers hung just beyond the veil, lurking in the darkness, waiting for the next moment of vulnerability. The shadows pulsed and twisted around them, growing in intensity, fueled by the weight of their confessions. Liz could feel the air becoming thick with dread, suffocating her thoughts. "Hold on," she shouted, fighting off the pull of despair closing in. "Speak it, Liz," the figure urged, her voice weaving through the chaos, an anchor in the storm. "Every truth has power." With every ounce of will, Liz clenched Jake's hand, feeling the warmth of his skin. "I let my ambition cloud my heart. I was blinded by my own selfishness," the shadows shrieked, echoing her words, fed by her pain, but she pressed on. "I abandoned those who cared for me behind her," Mark yelled. "You think you can break us? We're stronger than you think." A fiery resolve ignited within him, even as the figures of his past clawed at his consciousness, their twisted faces frowning in disappointment. They wove through the darkness like memories come alive, whispering all the what-ifs he had buried. "Together, we throw this back," Jake shouted. His voice trembled but rang with an undeniable strength. "This darkness doesn't own us." The shadows writhed violently, enraged by their unity. The figures morphed into grotesque shapes, elongated limbs reaching for their throats, faces twisted in agony. Liz fought the panic rising in her chest, focusing on the warmth of Jake's hand. "Don't stop. Keep going," she urged, the flames of their courage burning brighter. "We'll take everything from you, every lie." In an act of sheer determination, each of them began to scream their regrets, their truths one after another, words piercing the darkness. Liz saw the details of her past emerge, memories of friends lost and dreams sacrificed spilling into the void, growing brighter and heavier with every declaration. "I didn't protect him," Mark shouted, his voice booming against the swirling mass of shadows. He was crying for me. The darkness wailed in response, a fierce howl echoing off the walls of their confinement, as distortions of sorrow and guilt mixed in with their confessions. The woman's form remained a beacon, guiding them forward. What you face is nothing but echoes, reflections of choices that no longer define you. Use your strength. The shadows hissed, recoiling from their words, as if each confession were a powerful strike against their dark essence. An explosive light erupted from their joined hands, illuminating the gloomy space around them, causing the shadows to shrink, pulsating violently as if in pain. The figures howled, twisting away from the growing brightness that radiated from their truths. But the vortex still churned, still threatening to consume them. Just a little more. We can drive them back. Liz felt adrenaline coursing through her body, as a sense of camaraderie flourished among them. Driven by the desire to free themselves, they pushed harder, searching for more to unleash. Just then, the shadows stiffened, recoiling as if struck by an unseen force. A dense, tangible moment fell over them, and the air crackled with energy. It stung Liz's skin. In that sudden stillness, the figure of the woman stepped closer, eyes now ablaze with intensity. It's time you must confront what you feared most. Before Liz could process the words, the shadows twisted violently, revealing a single figure at the center, a specter of her past, fearfully familiar, shrouded in darker tendrils. No, not her. I can't face this. Liz gasped, her breath hitching as memories washed over her. But the specter, devoid of features yet undeniably real, surged toward her with an outstretched hand. Face your truth, Liz. This ends now. The shadows cried out in fury, their chaotic wails drowning her thoughts as she stood frozen, caught between the urge to flee and the need to unleash the final fragment of her heart. In that heart-stopping moment, she realized this wasn't just about battling regrets. It was about embracing them. What would happen if she stepped forward? Could she conquer the darkness born from her life decisions, or would it pull her under, forever lost in the turmoil? As the specter advanced, Liz felt the crushing weight of her history pressing down, the stakes rising dangerously high. Would she summon the strength to battle what she feared the most, or would she surrender and let the shadows reclaim her? The answer loomed above her like a gathering storm, waiting to burst. The specter loomed closer, its form barely solid yet brimming with a familiar intensity. Liz felt her heart race, each thud echoing in the silence that enveloped them. She wanted to run, to find an escape route, but the darkness was relentless, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Liz, don't let it control you. Jake's voice broke through her panic. It was a slight, but essential touch of grounding. She turned to him, his face illuminated with determination. You have the power. Remember what you've overcome. Memories surged forward, both bitter and sweet. The laughter of friends around a campfire, the soft touch of her mother's hand as she offered comfort during dark days. Right alongside those moments were the faces of those she failed, people who counted on her, who trusted her, yet she had let her ambition overshadow the connections she once cherished. Embrace it. Don't fight it. The woman called to her, urging. Every shadow has a source, but every source has the potential for light. You must own your truth. Liz clenched her jaw. But what if I can't? What if it's too strong? The specter paused, hovering inches from her face, attempting to dive into her thoughts. For a split second, Liz felt it, the doubt, shame, and fear of her past crashing over her like waves on a rocky shore. It was crushing and suffocating. Pushing it down had become a habit, almost instinctual, but then it struck her. The specter was her fear, her regret manifesting in front of her. It only held the power she allowed. Each agonizing confession they had unleashed had weakened the shadows. Why should this be any different? What is the worst that could happen? She whispered, trembling. I acknowledge you. I say your name out loud? Together. Mark bellowed, his voice snapping her from her reverie. We'll say it with you. She looked at him, the resolve in his eyes igniting courage within her. With Jake's hand steady in hers, and the camaraderie of Mark beside her, she took a deep breath, feeling the heat of their connection shielding her in that cold, dark space. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of being seen for who I truly am. She shouted, each word freeing her, unraveling the power that the specter held over her. The apparition flinched but did not dissolve. The shadows surged angrily, twisting in on themselves like a panic-stricken animal. Wave after wave of their screams echoed through the air, but Liz pressed on, refusing to yield. I wanted success. I thought it was the only way. But in my desperation, I hurt those I loved. I watched them fade away because I was too busy climbing higher and higher. The specter reeled back slightly, its dark edges flickering. Let it in, Jake yelled. Don't hold back. Liz's voice grew stronger, each confession clawing its way free from her heart. I regret not being there when they needed me most, not picking up the phone. I saw the pain in their eyes and ran away like a coward. The specter writhed, caught between the light spilling from her truths and the shadows clawing to maintain their stranglehold. You can't control me anymore, Liz shouted, feeling the warmth of their united force pushing through the chill. I refuse to be defined by fear. A blinding light burst from their joined hands, bright enough to pierce through the shadows. Liz felt a swell of strength, melding into the growing tide of resolve among her friends. Together, they were a force greater than regret. But as the shadows shrieked in agony around them, another form began to emerge, one Liz had not expected. A familiar figure stepped from the depths of the darkness, eyes hollow yet knowing. Liz, I've been waiting, it whispered, drawing nearer still. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and fear gripped her anew. Who could this be? More shadows? Another tormentor from her past? Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but she felt the weight of her companions behind her, urging her forward once more. What truth awaited her now? Liz's heart raced as she registered the figure. What would this new revelation expose? The past, the specter of her choices, and the unknown were converging, ready to collide. A flash of uncertainty flickered in her mind. Would this truth liberate her, or would it tear down everything she fought to reclaim? The figure stepped into the flickering light, its features becoming clearer. The hollow eyes that peered into Liz's soul were undeniably familiar. Her breath hitched. Sam? The name barely escaped her lips, weighted with disbelief and heartache. Sam, her younger brother, had been gone for years, taken too soon by circumstances she had never quite understood. A wave of emotion surged, threatening to engulf her. Grief, guilt, nostalgia, they wrapped around her heart, squeezing until it ached. What are you? How are you here? Liz stammered, fighting to maintain her voice against the tide of memories crashing in. I've always been here, Liz, Sam whispered, his voice a gentle echo that resonated deep within her. In your mind, in your heart, but you pushed me away. You ignored my voice, drowned me out with your ambition. You forgot who you were. His words struck harder than the specter's shadow could ever reach. Liz wanted to deny it, to push back against the guilt, but her body refused to move. The warmth of her friends faded slightly, leaving her standing alone before the figure who had been lost, yet somehow remained tethered to her. No! I tried. I fought for everything. She felt a warm spill over her cheeks. It was hot. It was real. Tears she had held in for years streamed down her face, and she caught herself wavering. I thought if I succeeded, I could make it right. I thought that you could climb out of the darkness? Sam's voice was softer now, a tolling bell of understanding. But the more you climbed, the further you veered from the ones who truly mattered. I wanted you to stop. I wanted you to see that success isn't worth losing who you are. The specter of regret stirred, the shadows echoing Sam's words as they swirled around Liz. A sense of urgency gripped her. I want to change. I want to connect again, she cried, though her voice quivered with uncertainty. Then do it, Sam urged. Acknowledge me. Acknowledge your pain. It's the only way you can move forward. Liz's heart hammered in her chest. A new feeling swirled within her, fury mixed with regret, but also with a flicker of hope. She didn't want to be defined by the darkness. She could see the shadows flickering, swirling, reacting to her emotions. They weren't fully gone, but they were starting to weaken. Looking at Sam, she took a steadying breath. I'm so sorry, Sam. I didn't mean to forget you. I thought in my pursuit of greatness, I could save us all. Stop. It was your fault, Sam interrupted, his voice rising with urgency. This is your moment, Liz. Let me go. Choose to be free of the guilt. With a surge of clarity, Liz squeezed Jake's hand tighter, feeling his presence bolster her resolve. I have to let you go, she shouted, voice cracking as the vibrations in the air intensified. Together, Mark roared, the power of their friendship surging as one. I let go of my guilt. I let go of my fear. I choose to remember all of you and cherish your memory without letting it haunt me. The shadows convulsed violently, as if caught in an overwhelming tempest. Liz watched as a bright light erupted forth, spreading from their hands, washing over the specter and igniting the darkness like a shooting star. She could feel the warmth touch every fragment of her soul, a transformative force unraveling the restraints that had bound her for too long. But just as the light engulfed Sam, he stopped and turned back to Liz. Remember, I'm always a part of you. Just not in the way you thought. Then, with a final, radiant pulse, Liz felt a shaking one that stemmed from more than the ground beneath her feet. It was as if the world itself quaked, and the light began to fan out, illuminating every corner of the darkness. But then, just past her field of vision, a darkness began to form again, not a specter, but something more sinister, lurking at the edges, waiting. The sensation of dread gripped her anew. Liz! Behind you! Jake shouted, his voice sharp, slicing through her triumphant moment. Panic surged as she turned, her heart dropping. What new horror had emerged from the remnants of her? Fears? What had she failed to confront that could rise again? The shadows twisted into unimaginable shapes, whispering her name, promising to drag her back into the abyss. Liz's blood ran cold. She thought she was free. She thought she could face her past, but something else awaited, hungry and vengeful. What was this new terror closing in, ready to strike when she was most vulnerable? The shadows twisted and writhed, taking on forms that felt far too familiar. Liz felt panic grip her, an icy fist tightening around her chest as the darkness grew thicker, heavier, more suffocating. No! She shouted. I'm done with you. But the shadows didn't care for her defiance. They lunged forward, a cacophony of regret howling around her, daring her to succumb to despair. Stay together, Mark yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos. He gripped Liz's arm, pulling her close as Jake did the same. They formed a tight circle, hearts pounding in unison, bolstered by their shared strength against the growing terror. The figure of Sam flickered like a dying star, his eyes filled with both love and sorrow. You can't let them control you, he urged, voice trembling with urgency. Remember the light. Yes, Liz cried, feeling a surge of warmth wash over her, a spark ignited in the depths of her spirit. I'm not defined by my past. I am not these shadows. The darkness shrieked, recoiling momentarily, giving Liz the precious time she needed. I choose to live. I choose to love. Remembering is not the same as being haunted. With every word she spoke, Liz felt the light within her grow brighter, fueled by confession and courage. The shadows hesitated, swirling violently as if resisting the warmth that aimed to envelop them. Together, they stepped forward into the heart of the darkness, as if daring it to come closer. "Let us finish this," Jake shouted, his voice ringing like a battle cry. "We're not backing down." The power of their unity rippled through the tension-filled atmosphere, creating a barrier against the looming shadows. Liz took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of emotion, every pent-up regret. "For all the times I shut you out, for every moment I ignored my truth, I am sorry." With that confession, beams of light erupted from the trio, spiraling outward, cutting through the darkness like blades. The shadows shrieked in anguish, twisting away from the brilliance that poured forth. The clearing lit up in ways it hadn't before, illuminating the forest around them. Each confession echoed in the air, wrapping around their bodies like a protective shield. "I wouldn't be here without you," Mark shouted, tears streaming down his face, vulnerability spilling forth. "I need you all to know that you're worth it." Liz nodded, feeling the strength of their bond swell. "We're more than the burdens we carry. We're friends, and we will face this together." The light around them brightened, flickering with new resolutions, pushing back against the tide of shadow. The darkness began to shrink, pulling back and snarling, but it wasn't finished yet. With one last desperate lunge, it coiled around Liz, chilling her to the bone. She could almost feel its whispers clawing at her sanity. "Together," Jake shouted, urgency rumbling in his tone. "Together," Liz and Mark echoed, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. It was time. Time to accept the horrors they had awakened and transform them into strength. With one massive breath, they heaved their fears forward, letting loose a wave of emotion that resonated through the forest. "I forgive myself," Liz screamed, the words shattering the air around them. "I will remember, but I choose not to be broken." In that moment, the darkness exploded, spreading hot and cold through the air. The very fabric of the forest reacted, the trees shaking as if aligning with their cries, each flicker of light ripping through the darkness until there was nothing left. With a final, thunderous crack, the last remnants of shadow imploded, evaporating into mist that rose toward the sky, leaving behind an aura of relief. The air cleared, and the haunting whispers faded. Breathless and shaken, Liz, Jake, and Mark fell back, retreating from the center. The moon shone brightly overhead, casting a serene light over the clearing, illuminating the chaos that once reigned. Liz felt something shift within her, a weight lifted, an unshackling of soul. "I can't believe we did it," Mark panted, relief flooding his voice. "We faced it together," Liz whispered, glancing into the eyes of her friends, warmth replacing the fear that had gripped them just moments before. "We're free," Jake breathed, blinking as the reality settled in around them. As the silence enveloped them, Liz closed her eyes, letting the soft breeze brush against her skin. Tommy's spirit hovered nearby, lingering as a memory but no longer a shadow. "We did this for you," she said softly, her heart swelling with the weight of unspoken words. "And we'll continue to honor your memory, not as a burden, but as a light guiding us." The forest felt different now, peaceful and calm. With every step they took together, Liz felt renewed, strengthened by their bond and companioned by the memories of the pain they had overcome. There in the clearing, they turned to leave, shoulders brushed against each other in silent camaraderie. And as they stepped into the cool embrace of the night, they promised each other, no more shadows, only light, only the truth. "This is where we say goodbye," she thought, glancing back at the forest that had once held their deepest fears. With a heart full of both sorrow and hope, she walked away a brighter version of herself, knowing they had conquered the darkness and emerged whole. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to hit that button so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, you know it helps. And listen, I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.